I only wanted Jack Lemmon to play the part, and I wanted Walter Matthau to play the other part.
I think Neil had complete casting control on almost everything he did.
Everybody in New York wanted Art Carney because he only cost $100,000, not $1 million. I was Mr. Hollywood. That's when I became Mr. Hollywood. I wanted to pay $1 million and get Jack Lemmon.
Well, I think twofold. Number one is that the reason that Art Carney did not do the film was because Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon had previous success as a couple. And also, Jack Lemmon was an enormous star. Jack was a premier comedic actor and also won Oscars for dramatic performances. He was a top-ranked Hollywood actor. Art was a very good actor, an excellent actor, but commercially he wasn't as valuable as Jack was.
It took a longer time to negotiate the deal than it did to make the picture. And the reason was money.
Jack Lemmon was a big star. And that at that time, I don't think Walter was yet a big star. He was on his way, but I think that Paramount didn't want to turn its back on star power. And it so happened that Jack and Walter had worked together before this in a Billy Wilder picture.
They had done The Fortune Cookie together, and my dad had won the Oscar for it.
And they decided Billy Wilder was going to direct it. He was the top director of comedy at the time. And William Morris represented the entire project. And we were at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and the owner of the company of Gulf and Weston, which owned Paramount, was a man named Charles Bluedorn. He was looking for bargain prices. William Morris wasn't. And it ended up, they only wanted to spend less to make the picture than they paid Jack Lemmon. They wanted $1 million for Jack Lemmon against 10% of the gross. And we wanted to pay for the entire picture at $1.4 million to make the whole picture. To say that we were frugal at the time would be certainly an understatement. Jack and Walter double-crossed Billy Wilder, their good friend, because they just didn't have enough money for Billy Wilder, Jack Lemmon, and Walter Matthau.
My agent was Abe Lastfogel. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He was like the founder, one of the founders of William Morris. And he said, they want you to do The Odd Couple, and I want to have a meeting on Saturday at the hotel and seal it up right away.
And Jack got $1 million at 10% of the gross, against 10% of the gross, and Walter got $300,000.
And I thought, what's the pressure? Well, it was pressure. I know Billy Wilder wanted to do it.
And very resentfully, management in the East at the time, where management was, Eastman, New York, resentfully paid the tariff of the stars. And it proved that star power does count. And that's the signing of the end of the war at the beginning of the film.
In 1968, we did this film with Paramount, which is a very good studio to work for, I remember. I had done other things, subsequently did other things there, and the atmosphere was going, and the producer was a marvelous, wonderful fellow, Howard Koch. Kindest, nicest man, and he set the tone of our relationship to Paramount.
We did something in those days which was almost unheard of, I think. We rehearsed the movie for 3 weeks. Howard Koch was adamant that we'd rehearse the movie for 3 weeks before we shot, and he said, you can say anything you like, you can bring up anything you like, you can talk about the way you want to do it, because once we start shooting, everybody just shuts up and gets on with it. And it worked out wonderfully.
because it was a play and there were a lot of lines, rehearsal was really important. You know, today movies have fewer and fewer words and more pictures. And how do you rehearse those?
We knew that it was a very important project. And so we wished to be as good as we could be. And so we would rehearse, the four of us together, constantly.
First of all, Howard Koch, as a producer, was a wonderful, professional, personable guy. They became very close friends over the next decade. And it was a great set to visit.
Howard Koch was just one of the most wonderful men. If he hadn't been a producer, I think he'd have been a wonderful director.
No, there were no creative conflicts, except that he was always pushing for time. And when I was doing the scene with the two girls, I remember he was always on the floor, always on the floor. He was like a great stage manager.
Because he had a great say in the direction of the movie, although Gene Saks is credited with the direction and certainly was there and strong and wonderful. Howard had very strong opinions.
And he was always with the crew and joking. Anyway, I did a shot of them at I think it was a medium length shot. And then I planned to do a closer shot. And suddenly I walked back to the camera and it was a completely different position. And I said, what happened? And Howard said, aren't you through? I thought you were through. Oh, I'm sorry. But he was that kind of guy. And nice fellow.
I would eavesdrop on occasion to the discussions that Lemon and Walter Matthau and Gene Saks had about scenes. And they were at such a high level of intellectuality and of technique that half the time I didn't understand what the hell they were talking about. They were that good and that impressive. And it came from Gene.
Just brilliantly directed by Gene Saks. And I think he's one of the most underrated directors out there. He directed my father in 2 movies, Cactus Flower with Goldie Hawn and The Odd Couple, and they were 2 of my father's biggest hits. And although he's mostly known for his stage directing, I think he's wonderful with a camera.
Gene Saks had that sensibility. He also had a long history with Walter. You see, they had been students together. They had done plays together, and they knew each other intimately, and it was really a real collaboration, I think. So many sets and so many scenes are competitive. I want to be better than you. So many actors, oh, you're not that good? Fine, that makes me feel good. There was none of that here. None of that here. We were all devoted to the material. And because of that, and because of Gene Saks, we were wedded to the material. And so everybody tried to do the best they could for the play, for the film, for the material. And obviously, I think it worked.
I didn't know Monica before the stage play, but we became terribly close during that. And, well, we were pigeons for quite some time. We got to look like each other, I think, after a while. I wonder what she looks like now. I haven't been in touch with her since about 1980. Neil Simon was in London overseeing his musical Little Me. And while he was there, he thought he'd look for his 2 pigeons because he'd looked in New York and he couldn't find them. And I remember there being 8 of us at the very first audition, And those two appeared, and those two appeared, and these two, and those two. And the next audition, one pair had been eliminated, and everyone was switched around with everybody else. And at the third audition, there were 4 girls left, and I was teamed up with Monica for the first time. And it just happened. It just clicked. And he came through the pass door because he'd been sitting in the orchestra. And he said to the two of us, well, we open in Washington. And we said very seriously, that's very nice for you. And he said, no, we're opening in Washington. And we screamed.
To me, their contribution to that film is enormous, absolutely enormous. Very difficult parts. To come in, to be as silly, as funny, as attractive as they are in the film. And if you notice, that film just peaks when they're on stage, just goes up when they're on stage. The giggles, they were so adept at what they were doing, and besides being very nice.
Without a blink, we just were buddies, friends, close. She was my maid of honor when I got married. I spent the night with her before getting married in her apartment. Yeah, we were incredibly close. Being involved in all 3 is probably on a short list of people who have ever had that privilege to have been in the stage play, the movie, television series. I can't think, I know there are other people who have done it, but I can't think of any offhand. I'm very lucky. So's Monica.
Annie.
How I came to the role was this, is that Walter was a good friend, as I told you. I had worked with Gene Saks as an apprentice in a Cherry Lane theater down in New York. I did not know till a day or two before the rehearsal period that I was going to play Roy, because Gene, had not made up his mind between me playing Speed or Roy. And then he made a decision, and I played Roy, and Larry Haynes played Speed. That cigar, you know, it's very difficult working with the cigar. It gets wet, and you know, and whatever, and it's hard to keep it in your mouth. And Larry Haynes was really, in a way, the most successful of all the actors in the show theatrically. Never stopped working. Never stopped working. He was on a soap opera for 35 years or 40 years. Oh, Herb was a lovely guy. A lovely guy. Very tall. Herb was funny and nice and talented, and he became a friend, and he became a friend till his death. Johnny Fiedler. Johnny was very much like the character he played, but not at all. He was a very strong fellow, albeit the high voice, you know, but he was and a lovely guy.
You want to do me a really big favor? Smoke towards New Jersey.
The opening scene, the card game, is what an opening act that is. And when he opens the can of beer, and bam, and everything goes, and he's so sloppy and everything, cards are going everywhere. And where's Felix? He's not here. Why isn't he? You know, where is he? He's not playing tonight.
He'll kill himself. You hear what I'm saying? He's gonna go out and try and kill himself. Will you shut up, Murray? Stop being a cop for 2 minutes. Where'd he go, Oscar?
He went out to kill himself.
What did I tell you?
And then knock on the door on the Felix entrance. So the first act, the whole first act, brilliant.
My favorite scene from The Odd Couple is probably the spaghetti throwing scene. It's a lot of people's favorite scenes. I like it when he goes, now it's garbage.
Now, kindly remove that spaghetti from my poker table.
The hell is so funny?
It's not spaghetti, it's linguine. Now it's garbage.
My favorite scene has got to be the one with Felix.
Terribly sorry. I think I've forgotten your name.
Felix.
Yes, of course, Felix. Like the cat.
Cat.
Oh, well, the pigeons will have to beware of the cat, won't they?
We only have 2 scenes. I know it feels as though we're there for longer, but really the scene with Felix where he shows us the pictures of the family and how much he loved his home.
He's 7. And she's 4.
Oh, I imagine you must miss them terribly.
Well, I can't stand being away from them. But that's what happens with divorce.
But when do you get to see them?
Every night, I drop by on the way home.
Is everybody happy?
Before he finds out that his meatloaf is burned, there's got to be one of the funniest scenes ever written.
My very favorite scene. I wake up in the morning, there's little notes on my pillow say we're out of cornflakes, F you. It's the argument scene. I mean, it's genius.
Oscar, what is it? Is it the cooking or the cleaning, the crying?
I'll tell you exactly what it is. The cooking, the cleaning, the crying. It's the talking in your sleep. It's those moose calls that open your ears at 2 o'clock in the morning. Can't take it anymore, Felix. I'm cracking up. Everything you do irritates me. And when you're not here, the things I know you're gonna do when you come in irritate me. You leave me little notes on my pillow. Told you 158 times I cannot stand little notes on my pillow. We are all out of cornflakes, F.U. Took me 3 hours to figure out that F.U. was Felix Unger.
I love the scene in the movie where Felix blows it with the Pigeon Sisters, and it's the first time that Oscar really unleashes. I mean, he had this wonderful evening planned with these 2 beautiful women, and Felix, with his neurosis, just drove them out of the room, and the scene that follows is really what the play is about.
I said I'm not going.
Are you out of your mind? You know what's waiting for us up there? You've just been invited to spend the evening in a 2-bedroom hothouse with the Cuckoo Pigeon Sisters. What do you mean you're not going?
I have nothing left to say to them. I already told them about my brother in Buffalo. I've used up all my conversation.
Felix, they are crazy about you. They're nuts about you. I'm telling you, they told me. One of them wants to wrap you up and make a bundle out of you. You're doing better than I am. Come on, get the ice bucket.
Well, don't you understand? I cried. I cried in front of 2 women.
And they loved it. I'm thinking of getting hysterical.
If I do have a favorite scene, just popped in my head, and I have no idea why it's my favorite scene, but it's when Jack we think, has lost his marbles, and he's going to jump out the window, and we all grab him and we throw him in the bathtub. And that was my favorite scene.
The bathroom, get his head under the cold towel.
Watch my arm! Watch my arm! Watch my arm! No, please, get that out! Get it out! We gotta get the pills out! The pills are out! I threw up before!
If you're asking me if my father had a favorite scene in The Odd Couple, yes, every scene that he was in. I'm just joking. It's a good answer. It's a good answer. Go on.